stand by for action.
And welcome, one and all, to the Unpleasant Blind Guy Filthy Jew Special. My name is Dave Milner, and hope you'll enjoy the ride. Now, I wanted to advertise this as the Filthy Jew Special, but knowing some of the places that I do have to advertise it, I thought, well, maybe they might think that it's a bit too anti-Semitic, and they might ban it, or whatever. And, of course, it's not meant to be anti-Semitic at all, because it was me that was called a filthy Jew. But I think it's just safe to go ahead and call it something like the FJ Special, or something like that. But it's a special program, and this one's going to center a lot on speech. How we interact with the left, how the left interacts with us, some of the things that the left uses to make themselves feel a little bit better, some of the things we can use to engage the left on the field of ideas, and a few other things that I think are important going forward. Especially in these times, this is very important because we know now that our own government, through people like Eric Holder and Lois Lerner and other henchmen of President Obama, are doing what they can to try and constrain the freedom of expression of the people. That is the most precious, in my opinion, right granted to us under our Constitution. And one or two things happened in the past few days that made me want to really drill down on this one. I've always intended to do something on speech, but that's going to happen today. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is basically a tale of two conversations. We're going to see how the left condescends, how the left fools themselves, and about how we can, well, one way at least, that we can strike back at people who use these tactics and who try to use bullying tactics or things like that. So, and the two conversations I'm talking about took place on YouTube in the comments sections for various things. The first one took place between myself and an individual with the name Subalternert, or something of that nature. All right. Now, this character was responding to a comment that I made about Agenda 21. This was a video. Obviously, it's something that Glenn Beck has been talking about for a good deal of time, and it's something others have been talking about. It's a clear and present danger to the sovereignty of the United States of America. And this particular video I decided to comment on YouTube. And so this Vert fellow first told me that I should learn what socialism was, because I said that this was basically the spearhead of socialism. And I told him what socialism was, that it was basically an instrument of control for the elites. Now, his response was, and I want you guys to listen to this response because it's very fascinating. This is what the left is telling themselves. This is what the left is telling each other. All right. The response from this guy is, socialism is based on rights for the middle class and elimination of poverty, not government control, but people control and corporation rich but middle-class workers. Now, it's kind of an incoherent statement, but you get the gist of it. The propaganda that the left is telling themselves to make themselves feel good is that this is all about creating a middle class and promoting a middle class and eliminating poverty. Well, now, if that were true, then you would think that poverty would be completely eliminated in socialist countries. I mean, they would just follow naturally. That would just be logical. Trouble is, that isn't the case. The socialist countries in Europe and in other parts of the world have plenty of poverty and plenty of the crime that often goes along with poverty and just from being jerks. All right? The fact that poverty exists in these countries that have fully embraced socialism proves that socialism may be billed as something to eliminate poverty, but it can't do it because it doesn't work. But that's not even the real operative thing here. The real operative thing here is what this fellow is putting out as the propaganda for the promotion of socialism. I mean, that all sounds great. It sounds great to promote a middle class. It sounds great to eliminate poverty. I mean, who doesn't want poverty eliminated? Who doesn't want a strong middle class? But my response to him was that his definition was basically what he had been told. His definition was what he had been sold. They didn't say he'd been sold it, but same thing. His definition was what socialist leaders wanted him to say, wanted him to think, wanted him to promote, wanted him to believe. And I'm sure he does believe it. See, that's one of the things that we have to understand, people, is that socialists actually do believe that their philosophy, their way of handling things is good and right for a majority of the people. I mean, they're not sitting there like Snidely Whiplash, and if you're too young to remember Snidely Whiplash, look on YouTube for the cartoon Dudley Do-Right, and you'll find Snidely Whiplash. They're not just sitting there, twiddling their mustaches and going, yeah, I'm evil. No, they're good people. They want to see the homeless housed. They want to see the sick healed. They want to see the hungry fed. They want all of this. And the line that they've been fed is that the best way to do this is through socialism, that somehow capitalism causes more of these problems than it resolves. These are things that these people believe. And this fellow's statement sort of encapsulates a lot of that. And that's why I had to tell him what I did, basically that that this was what he was told socialism was, when in fact socialism is or has become the vehicle that the elite uses to keep themselves in power while taking everyone else to a place where there is equal misery. And of course, the socialist leaders are not the ones sharing in that misery. You're not going to see President Obama ever using an Obamacare clinic. All right? Not unless it's for something trivial and for a photo op. He's not going to be getting his medical care from an Obamacare clinic. And neither are any of his cronies. You're not going to see any of the socialist leaders living in Section 8 housing. You're not going to see them on food stamps. You're not going to see them, for the most part, again, unless it's for a photo op, riding public transportation. You're not going to see these people doing any of the stuff that they promote for everyone else. But they have to get people to believe that this is the right way to go. And the tool for that is speech, their speech, and their message. And this guy put out their message, and I responded with mine. And that's what we all have to do. We can't let the left have this part of the arena of ideas. We've got to push back. When they push us, we have to push back. Peacefully always. I'm not talking about violence of any kind. But I'm talking about when it's the arena of ideas, we have to be in there with our game face on and ready to fight like gladiators for personal liberty, baby. Now, let's move on to the next one here. This next conversation I had concerned the appearance on Piers Morgan, all right, of Senator Greg Ball, who wrote a fantastic tweet, and apparently Piersy didn't like it very much. And when he tried to treat Senator Ball the way he usually treats everyone else, Senator Ball blasted back with both barrels and gave Piers Morgan a nice big heapin' heppin' of his own bile. It was fantastic to watch, and I said in the YouTube comments that he was a great American and that Piers Morgan deserved everything that he got. Now, this is the response from someone named Black Eagle. Now, this is in all caps, okay? Dana Lash will be very familiar with the all caps thing. And it says, he's no American, he's a filthy Jew like you. And frankly, I stopped reading after that. Because, let's face it, nothing else the guy had to say really meant anything to me or made any sense, because at that point, first of all, I was laughing. Because I'm not Jewish, although I would not be ashamed if I were. I'm named for the biblical David. And actually, now, I'm proud of that. There was a time when I was a kid that I wasn't proud of it, because if you read about David in the Bible, you know that he was kind of corrupt. But he also was very human, and I think that's something to be quite proud of. Now, as for the other part, as for laughing at being called a filthy Jew, in all caps, it made this individual sound like Eric Cartman from South Park, screaming at his friend Kyle that Kyle is a filthy Jew. Now, my response to this guy was to use a condescending tone myself. I gave him a cookie, and the cookie was just, a small letter O off by itself. And then I told him that I thought it was really great that someone with his obvious mental disabilities could actually use YouTube. I think that is a really great thing. But honestly, the whole incident just made me laugh, except for the fact that it's clearly anti-Semitic. But this is the sort of thing that the left has come down to in a lot of cases. When they can't condescend and try and fool us with phony facts, they have to go on the personal attack and even, yes, the racist attack. And yes, for people who think that anti-Semitism isn't racist, you may want to look at other definitions around the world of racism rather than just the singular American definition, which is to act in a discriminatory fashion against someone because of the color of their skin. It actually goes deeper than that. But it's also another lesson for us, because we have to be ready to be called names. We have to be ready to have everything in the world said about us, but we have to defend free speech. We have to defend personal liberty. We are not, as Dana Lash said in this context, going to go softly into that good night. If we lose this battle, we will not lose the war, and we will not simply lay down and hand the enemy the sword to plunge into our hearts. We're going to go out swinging, baby. And we have to use our heads, and we have to be careful not to be violent or hateful or anything that the left tries to portray us to be. There's nothing that the left wants more at this stage than for one of us to go crazy and go shoot up something. That's what they're waiting for, like tigers looking at a gazelle. Even though I'm talking about two different continents when it comes to those animals. But the analogy is still good. All right. Now, if you want to see what I think of freedom of speech, I did a stupid little video called Free Speech is America. And I'm going to share that out on the Twitter account UBG Contact. So you can check that out on Twitter if you want. And yes, you'll get to see my face. And yes, God help you. All right. I'm going to turn now to our friends across the pond in the UK. Now, we've all been pretty much appalled by what happened with the soldier over there who was stabbed by the jihadists. And there have been various reactions in the UK. There has been a movement begun to try and regain gun rights for the British people. I hope that succeeds. I rather doubt that it will because it's gone too far now. But after the hacking up of this British soldier, there were other reactions, such as a shopkeeper named Matthew Taylor, who owns Taylor Clothes on, I think this is Emmeline Walk in the city of Newport in the United Kingdom. And he displayed a T-shirt in his window that said, and I'm loving this, "Obey our laws, respect our beliefs, or get out of our country." Fan-freaking-tastic, people. I'm loving it. But, as you might guess, the UK police told him to take the things down. Now, I don't know if you can buy these T-shirts. You may want to look around and see if you can't find this fella's place on the web, and see if you can't order any of these T-shirts for sale. Who knows? They would be awesome. I'd wear one. I would totally wear one. And you can find the story, by the way, on Jihad Watch. Remember, I'm going to try and post all of these things on the Twitter from UBG Contact because they're all important. All right. Now, I want to give proper credit to John Palmer from Twitter, who bird-dogged me on this great T-shirt story. Loved the heck out of that. So, great job, my friend. Thank you. He's someone that you should definitely follow on the Twitter because he comes out with a lot of good stuff, a lot of good informational things. All right. And Teresa Sickles on Twitter was talking about a story that I did last week on a little girl who was denied government aid for her therapy because it took place on a horse. Now, Teresa says on Twitter that she has a feeling that the whole Caitlin's Law thing may have something to do with the Ann Romney stigma encouraged by the left. And she has tweeted a link about Caitlin's Law and what's in store under Obamacare. That's Teresa Sickles on the Twitter. You should pay attention to that. I want to also thank Leopard Woman, who has given me some very good advice going forward on a lot of this stuff. That really has helped out a whole bunch, and I shall listen to it as I listen to everyone who talks to me on the Twitter about the show. And you're invited to do the same. Just tweet to UBG Contact, and you'll get hold of me. I'd like to ask people if they enjoy listening to this show, that they pass it along to others. Put it in your email lists to your fellow patriots. Of course, retweet the links. Put it on Facebook, things of that nature. I know a lot of my listeners are already doing that, and that's really fantastic. But taking those extra steps might get a few more people listening to the show, and that would definitely help the numbers. Now, I'm not doing this for numbers. I'm doing it because I think it's important. But the more people we reach, the more I think it'll help. I appreciate everybody who does that stuff. Now, I'm not going to end the show before I talk about Awesome Americans. And as this show is coming out on Thursday, June the 6th, I want to remind everyone that that is the 69th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, which took place in 1944. These people who were involved in this invasion were a part of what we have called the Greatest Generation. First, they dealt with the Depression. Then they won a war against fascism. Then they came back and made the United States of America, eventually, the only world superpower. If you know anyone from this generation who's still around, you should thank them for any service they might have done. You should definitely listen to them because they've got great stories to tell. They've got experiences that are quite simply beyond the reach of people who grew up after them. And these are the sort of people that we as Americans should emulate. I'm proud to have known some of them, and they are my awesome Americans for this week. Our country that has produced so many monuments, tamed a continent, also produced these people who were able to do all of these things and hand down to us a powerful, prosperous country. And I think it's time that we begin to take that country back and reinstitute the personal liberty that allowed that greatest generation to do the things that it did. Hope everyone has a great week. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you, and may your God go with you. Bye-bye.